Now, multiple times we've looked at on this channel what happens when somebody goes from stage 3 into stage 4. And it very much bears repeating right now because this is very appropriate. Right here. When people go to stage 4. Tough stage. Stage 4, okay? Now all the people who, you're going to church. I'm going, okay, all your church stuff, it all takes place. All the churches you go to that there's a guy standing at the pulpit preaching to people. All right? It's all stage 3 and below. It's all stage 3 and below. There are no churches out there who are offering anything beyond that, unfortunately. We got many videos detailing the why behind that. But what happens at stage 4? This is a tough stage. It's often begun in young adulthood when people start seeing outside the box and realizing that there are other boxes. They begin to critically examine their beliefs on their own and often become disillusioned with their former faith. Now, I wouldn't word my thing that way. What I'm going through, I'm not disillusioned with my former faith. I'm disillusioned with the fact that I was believing men's doctrines and men's traditions. Now, the Baptists, we criticize the Catholics for doing that. And that makes us blind to how much we Baptists are doing it too. Holding up and exalting men's doctrines and men's traditions. No idea that we're doing it. We think we're the ones following Scripture. And when we depart from what these fools say and actually uplift Scripture instead of what they say, they think we're departing from the faith. And actually, we're moving closer to the faith. We're moving closer to Scripture. Closer to what we would say, thus saith the Lord, right? We're moving closer to that, and they see it as a departure. And this phrase here, ironically, the stage 3 people usually think that the stage 4 people have become backsliders when in reality they have actually moved forward. That's the problem. Where you are looks dark to them. It looks dark to them. It looks like you've moved into the dark. Your Hubble Space Telescope has peered into the dark because you couldn't do otherwise after your dark night of the soul. You lost a family member. You lost a child. Had a child, 9-year-old, die of cancer, something like that. We had one in our unit like that. Sergeant George was going through a very, very tough time when his daughter died of cancer when I was stationed in Memphis at St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And ever since then, I always try to donate to them. It's a terrible thing. Watch somebody else go through a dark night of the soul and then to go through one yourself. And I don't know what your dark night of the soul is, but I'm telling you, I know it's painful and terrible. Maybe you lost a limb. Maybe you lost some organs. Maybe you lost a lot of family members. Maybe you lost your entire society. Maybe your whole village is gone. I don't know. I don't know what your situation is, but I know that it could be bad. And as you peer into that darkness, as you peer in, there are other people who think that you have left the light, whereas it's the other way around. You're just seeing light that they can't see. You ever look at a city, say you're on the bay, and you look across the bay and you see a city and you see all the lights lit up, and then the whole sky kind of has like a bluish haze to it, whereas the night sky is a darker, almost black. And as you get closer and closer to the city, you see it all illuminated. Now, what's the problem with being in the city? When you're in the city, all the lights are blocking the way, and you can't see the stars. So it may look like this bright, luminous, wonderful place to be all lit up. But all those lights are artificial, you see? And when you get out in the country and you get away from the city, that's when you can look up and see the stars. Haven't you ever done that? Have you ever driven your pickup truck out in the middle of nowhere and you just open up the bed and you lay in the back of the pickup truck and you look at the stars when there's nothing around? No light for miles and miles. And you can see all, it feels like you can see every star. And you go back in the city, like right now I live in a neighborhood. There's light posts out here. If I walk outside, I can see a few stars, but it's nothing like if I leave the artificial lights and go to where the natural lights can be seen. In order to see the real lights, in order to see the good lights, you have to get away. You have to get a good ways away from the artificial lights. Got to get away. From the artificial lights to see the real lights. And when you leave the city, people think you're going off in the dark. Like, no, I'm not going off in the dark. I'm going out where I can see the real lights. That's what you're doing. And they can't understand it. They can't understand how going into something that looks darker to them is actually more beautiful light that you can see and they can't because of their perspective, because of where they are. Under the perspective of where I am now, I could walk outside and there's a street lamp right outside in the neighborhood, and I look straight up and it would seem to me like there's only like 12 stars in the sky because you can't see the stars very well. I would have to change perspectives in order to see the other stars. Now there's another aspect. If you think back at the title of today's session, there's what I want to call the driving analogy. They say when you drive, everyone who's driving, my wife and I, we poke at each other when we drive and how we drive and all that, and we try to take it with good humor and good nature. But when you're driving, they say that everyone who's driving slower than you is an idiot, and everyone who's driving faster than you is a maniac. And that's kind of what spirituality is like. When I was a Baptist, okay, everyone going slower than us, who just seemed like little plebes who didn't know their Bible, like the Catholics and the Charismatics and the Church of Christ folks, and they were idiots. They're just dumb and didn't know anything. Whereas, like the mystics and things like that, they were maniacs. And that's kind of how it is. And there's no way to avoid that. There's no way to avoid that. When you start making spiritual progress, the people that you leave behind, they think you're going off into the dark. And like in traffic, you're driving faster than them, so you're a maniac. You're driving faster than what they are comfortable with. And let's pretend we're out on the Autobahn where there's not a speed limit. Oh, you're breaking the speed limit. We're not talking about a place where there's a speed limit. Okay, it's not a spiritual speed limit. By the way, speed limits can kill people, in my opinion. It causes people to focus on a number which has literally nothing to do with reality, and be aligned with that arbitrary number rather than being in attunement with traffic, which I think is very dangerous. We ought to train people to be in attunement with their surroundings, not just obey a number which may or may not have anything to do with their surroundings. So it's one of the dumbest things we do. But anyway, yeah, that's what people do. If you're driving slower than you, they're driving slower than you, they're an idiot. They're driving faster than you, they're a maniac. Which means you are someone else's idiot and you are someone else's maniac. And so if you start to progress spiritually, you're going to be everyone else's maniac. You're going to be the maniac that everyone else is complaining about. You're driving too fast for their comfort level. Their headlights don't project enough light far enough into the future to go as far enough in front of them to go as fast as what you're doing, and they think you're being reckless. They don't have any idea that you're driving on a different set of heuristics than they are, and you can see more clearly than they can. It's a different kind of thing.